شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك لبيك اللهم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين. Respected elders, scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. In our discussion about the Hajj, we said that for those who are performing it for the first time in their lifetime, it is known as Hajjatul Islam if it is wajib. If no, then it will be a mustahab Hajj. But in all cases, for pilgrims who come from far away distance to the holy city, the duty is to perform the Hajj, be it Hajjatul Islam, be it the Mustahab Hajj or the Nadhr Hajj or the Ihtiyat Hajj or the Niyabat Hajj, that this Hajj should be performed in two parts, Umrah and the bigger pilgrimage, the Hajj. The Umrah Tamattu' and the Hajj Tamattu'. And we said that there are certain rules which are wajib to be observed. One is we cannot enter the holy city of Mecca till we are in the state of Ihram. And to enter into the state of Ihram, we need to go to specifically designated places known as the Miqat, which for the holy city of Medina and the transit visitors through Medina is Masjid Shajara. At the Miqat, once we enter into Ihram, then certain restrictions begin to apply, which must be observed till the pilgrim reaches Mecca, performs the Tawaf, Salatul Tawaf, Sa'i between Safa and Marwa, and then performs the Taqsir to come out of the state of Ihram. So the next wajib act, we've already discussed the restrictions that apply in the state of Ihram. Now the next wajib act is the Tawaf, which is of the ibadah of 7 rounds to be performed around the Kaaba, which is the purified house, and it has to start at a specific point known as Hajarul Aswad and end at that point. So the entry and the exit point have been specified. And after Tawaf is Salatul Tawaf, and then Sa'i, and finally Taqsir, which we shall discuss later. But before we reach the holy city of Mecca, the Ihram prohibitions that apply to us, we need to be careful about the niyyah. I just need to warn you that in Mecca, again, we will be required to make niyyah for the Tawaf, for the Salatul Tawaf, for the Sa'i. But all these other niyyah follow the original niyyah that was made at the Miqat. So you have to be extra careful and make your firm decision what type of Umrah you plan to perform. So let's say if you made a niyyah of a specific Ihram, let's say you made the niyyah, I'm going to perform the Ihram of Umrah Tamattu', which is part of the Hajj, Hajjatul Islam or Mustahab Hajj. Then later on, once you reach Mecca, you can't change your niyyah. That original niyyah has to continue till the end. So you can't change once you have arrived Mecca, you say, oh, but there's so much time, there's almost a week, I may as well do 2 Umrah, one Umrah Mufrada and one Umrah Tamattu'. No, you can't change your niyyah till you complete your tawaf and salatul tawaf and sa'i between Safa and Marwa and taqsir, and come out of the ihram. The prohibitions once we are into the state of ihram, once we have made the proper niyyah, the prohibitions are of two types. One are prohibitions of ihram that apply when we are outside the haram. So we are in the miqat and all the way till we reach Makkah. The boundary of the haram for the holy city of Makkah is Masjid Tan'im, and from the north we go down south till we reach Makkah. We enter through usually the area where Masjid Tan'im is located, which is the boundary of the haram. So some prohibitions of ihram apply outside the haram, but there are extra prohibitions that apply once we are inside the haram. We have crossed Masjid Tan'im. So if you can have a look at this map. I don't know where's the pointer. Oh. Sorry, this is not a pointer, sorry. So observe on this map, I have shown the boundaries of the haram. So to the south there is a place known as Ida'at Liban, that is the boundary. To the west there is a place known as Shumaisi. Sorry, okay, thanks. There is a place known as Shumaisi. To the north of Makkah is Tan'im, that is, it goes all the way to Medina. I mean, those who enter from Medina. And to the southeast is Arafah. So once we reach Tan'im, we are now into this extra area known as the Haram area. Inside the Haram, new rules begin to apply, extra rules, which are in the state of ihram plus the restrictions of the haram. So in ihram to hunt a prey haram, inside the haram to hunt a prey doubly haram. Inside the haram again, outside the haram in the state of ihram, no problem, you can pluck vegetation, but not inside the haram. And all the Muslim mazhabs restrict this. Property, you can't even pick up, you find somebody's lost property, you can't pick it up. If you pick it up, then you must make sure you find the original owner. Otherwise, you must give it away as sadaqah ihtiyati wajib. So it's a responsibility. Leave it there unless you fear that by leaving it there it will get spoiled or it will go to waste, and therefore in order to protect it or to save it, you are picking it up. It's a holy sanctuary and protected place. So even if a criminal enters the haram, the authorities have no right to arrest him for a crime that was committed outside the haram, unless he is a threat or she is a threat even inside the haram and will commit a crime inside the haram. Then yes, of course, for the safety of the other pilgrims, he can be arrested. Inside the haram, the hadith says that be careful, observe and preserve the dignity and the prestige of the other pilgrims and the mu'mineen. So there's a hadith which says, Sama'a bin Mahran asked the sixth holy Imam, I had lent some money to somebody and then we never saw him again. Incidentally, I saw him inside the haram. Am I allowed to, in the state of ihram or inside the haram, to go to him and remind him that there is a payment to be made? And Imam alayhi salam says, no, don't go and threaten him. In fact, don't even go and make salam to him. He'll feel He'll feel hurt or threatened even by your mere greeting. It'll remind him of that occasion. There's safety and security which is legislated inside the haram for everyone, be it to plants, be it to animals, be it to human beings, be it to criminals amongst human beings. Man dakhalahu kana amina. Whosoever enters the haram is in total security and protection. And one important requirement about entering the haram is that we should be in a state of humility and have no pride or arrogance. The hadith says that man dakhalaha bisakina ghufira lahu dhanbuh. If a person enters in a state of peace and tranquility, then his sins will be forgiven, provided غَيْرَ مُتَكَبِّرْ وَلَا مُتَجَبِّرْ. He is not arrogant and proud. So all become equal in the presence of the King of the Kings. Even if a person may be a master and a lord and a leader and a king outside the haram, but inside the haram all are equal, and therefore all should be humble. Notice the extra restrictions that begin to apply inside the haram. Don't touch plants. Don't even hurt animals, and of course the other human beings. In fact, this is a very important lesson. We're living right now in times where unfortunately the sections of mankind have developed a lavish, luxurious lifestyle which depends on using resources of the earth, and it's becoming difficult to sustain this type of lifestyle. So if I can give you an example, scientists have worked out something known as the ecological footprint, which means that in order to support and to sustain a lifestyle, how much resources will we need from the earth? So those who are in North America will need 5 times the resources of the earth to sustain that lifestyle, if this lifestyle spreads all over to the rest of the earth. Western Europe 3 times the resources, Central and Eastern Europe 2 times, Latin America just below that, Middle East just more than one other earth to sustain life. Asia Pacific and Africa are the lowest. They're making minimum use compared to others of the Earth's sustaining life resources. And therefore in the state of haram we are introduced in ihram, and inside the haram we are introduced to a simple lifestyle, a humble lifestyle, which we should learn from and take back to our own places. Question: why so many restrictions? In that hadith of Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam to Shibli, he asks him, so did you, in the state of ihram, did you go inside the haram? And Shibli said, yes. So Imam alayhi salam said, what was your state of mind when you entered the haram? فَحِينَ دَخَلْتَ الْحَرَمْ نَوَيْتَ أَنَّكَ حَرَّمْتَ عَلَى نَفْسِكَ كُلَّ غِيبَةٍ تَسْتَغِيبُهَا الْمُسْلِمِينَ مِنْ أَهْلِ مِلَّةِ الْإِسْلَامِ. Did you also make the niyyah that now in the haram everybody is safe and secure, be it plants, be it animals, be it human beings, their property and their life is protected? No, even their honor and dignity is protected. Did you therefore refrain from ghibat and backbiting and hurting somebody's feelings in their absence? So Shibli said, well, no, I was not thinking along these lines. So Imam alayhi salam says, then you haven't really entered the haram. Physically, yes, but spiritually, no. This is an important point, that in order for us to be accepted inside the haram, samahani, una tatizo. Ina record vizuri. Okay, samahani. Inside the haram, we are supposed to avoid ghibat, but ghibat is something which is haram even outside the haram, even before we enter the haram. So let's say somebody here in their hometown, before they even begin their journey, God forbid, they got afflicted with this sin of ghibat and hurting somebody's feelings and speaking behind their backs. Therefore, before we go to Hajj and before we enter into ihram and before we enter into haram, it is wajib here to seek forgiveness for whatever hurt we have done to somebody else by ghibat. In fact, all sins, especially sins where it involves somebody else's rights and haqq, be it their property, be it their honor and dignity, if we've done anything to hurt them, we must make sure we apologize, we seek their forgiveness, and we ask them to pray for us, and of course, we should pray for them. Finally, in the state of istighfar, we enter the haram in the state of humility, simplicity, non-hostility, and not hurting anyone else, plants or animals or human beings, and observing the sanctity and the sacredness of what God has created and what God has legislated in this holy place. All of this as a preparation. Preparation from the miqat, we go into ihram till the haram. So ihram was necessary to be allowed to enter the haram. From the haram, we are now entering into the Baladul Haram, the holy city, the city of Makkah. In the past, Masjid Tan'im was outside Makkah. Now Makkah has developed and widened so much that it has gone even beyond Masjid Tan'im. So the preparation is to be able to enter into haram. Then after haram, to be able to enter Baladul Haram. And finally, to be able to enter Masjidul Haram. And then to make the ziyarah of Baytullah al-Haram. So all of this is a preparatory self-discipline so that the individual purifies themselves before they can be given audience into the presence of the all-pure, all-perfect Creator and Master of the universe. And incidentally, what was wajib in the miqat, that we should pronounce the talbiyah labbaik Allahumma labbaik, and then to subsequently keep on repeating it as many times, mustahab, and as loud as possible. Mustahab to do it loudly. But the repetition is up until the point we reach the holy city of Makkah. So once we reach Masjid Tan'im and we see the buildings of the city of Makkah, then we are supposed to stop, to repeat, to recite the talbiyah. Yes, Master, I've heard your call and your invitation, and I'm responding to you. So now finally we've already arrived at the destination. So we don't say anymore, I'm coming, I've already arrived now. From now onwards, the zikr should change. Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah, subhanallah, alhamdulillah. So now our next wajibat would be to proceed to Masjid al-Haram. Masjid al-Haram, which is the holiest of all the mosques in the world. And the hadith says that one salah in Masjid al-Haram, any salah, be it wajib salah, be it mustahab salah, be it qaza salah, one salah in Masjid al-Haram is equivalent to 100,000 salah elsewhere, 100,000 salah elsewhere. And now we've become directly God's guests, and therefore God says, welcome to my house. Tell me what is it that you want. Pray to me, ask for anything. Make your requests and it shall be granted. For example, we are told in the hadith, every 1 unit of money, 1 dirham for example, that you spend in the way of God for Hajj, it's equivalent to 1 million in reward. Lakini, this ziyarah of Baytullah al-Haram has to be done with peace and composure and dignity. We should not be in a state of hurry. So it's good to prepare ourselves, not to rush to the masjid. If you've had a long journey, or God forbid you didn't have enough rest in Medina before traveling and you have arrived tired and exhausted, or for some reason the bus was delayed, or arrival in the building was delayed, no need to hurry. There's no need to come out of ihram immediately. No need to go for tawaf immediately. You can rest till you're fresh. Mustahab to do the ghusl for the tawaf. And because in tawaf we will discuss later on, there are mustahab du'as to be recited. Don't forget to take your book. And also, in order to help those people who are not well focused or tend to get distracted for whatever reason, if they can't count the number of rounds of tawaf, take some sort of a counter also with you. And it's going to be hot, so make sure you have your hydration with you. And of course, very important to keep an ID card. And God forbid, if for some reason you are separated from the group and you don't meet at the meeting point or at the meeting time, but you have enough money to bring you back by taxi according to the address on your identity card. Warning: ghusl, which is to be done inside the building, not wajib, mustahab. You can just do wudu and go for the tawaf. But if you wish to do ghusl, no problem. But remember, you are in the state of ihram, and therefore the niyyah is important. So if somebody does the ghusl before going to Masjid al-Haram, I'm doing ghusl of Masjid al-Haram, not ghusl for tawaf. The niyyah is different. According to some mujtahids, Hazrat al-Sistani, Marwatul Akhoyi, they say no, the hadith about the ghusl for Masjid al-Haram, it's not completely authenticated, and therefore that ghusl cannot substitute for wudu, and wudu is wajib before the tawaf, which is wajib. So be careful of the niyyah that you make there. What you can do, the proper niyyah for the ghusl, you can do the ghusl of ihram at the miqat, mustahab, no problem, no need for wudu. Ghusl for entering haram, no need for wudu after that. Ghusl for entering Makkah, Baladul Haram, can't substitute for wudu. Ghusl for ziyarat Baytillah, Baytillah meaning that I'm now going to do the tawaf. Ghusl with this niyyah, no problem, there's no wudu required. But of course you can do wudu. So to be on the safe side, I would suggest, if you're not sure about which niyyah is for the ghusl which can substitute for wudu or not, make it a habit. Whenever you want to go to Masjid al-Haram, whether you have done ghusl or not, make a wudu. That way you are safe. The danger is if you have done a ghusl which is not a substitute for wudu, then that tawaf becomes batil. And therefore you have to repeat that tawaf. Of course, unless you make ruju on this mas'ala. So now, we've already entered into the state of ihram. We are already into the haram. Now the next wajib act is the tawaf. Tawaf is an act of ibadah. The agents of God, the spiritual agents, the angels, they always engage in this ibadah of tawaf. So we are trying to go there and become almost like angels, the angelic worship of doing tawaf. They do it in the spiritual realm around Baytul Ma'mur, or even beyond that, around the Arsh. But we on the earth, the earthly projection on the in the city of Mecca, we do it around this cuboid building. Tawaf, we will quickly remind ourselves about its importance, about the conditions to prepare for the tawaf, without which tawaf will be batil. What are the essential parts of tawaf? What about the limits inside which tawaf is allowed? If we exit from there, then tawaf is batil. And what if for some reason there is interruption during tawaf and it stops us from completion, and God forbid shaitan comes in and starts planting doubts, and that could also damage the tawaf. So we'll quickly look at these. Tawaf is a wajib act, which is also known as wajib al-rukni. It's a rukn and a pillar of the ibadah of Hajj. If for whatever reason this tawaf is not done, Umrah batil. If Umrah batil, Hajj batil. And therefore you will notice that in the dua that we make once we reach the Kaaba and look at the Kaaba, we say, "Oh Allah, I've come here and I'm standing, and this is awwalu manasiki. This is my first wajib ritual of the Hajj that I wish to perform," and that is the tawaf. Even if a person doesn't do the tawaf properly because of ignorance, ignorance is not an excuse here. Umrah tamattu' batil, and therefore even Hajj becomes batil unless somebody compensates for it. So once the Umrah tamattu' becomes batil, the ihram also is batil. So this year you can't do Hajj. Next year you must come and repeat the Hajj. So you have to be very careful about this tawaf. However, the time of the tawaf is quite long. You don't need to do it immediately. Usually around 2nd, 3rd of Zil Hijjah, we shall be arriving in Mecca. You don't need to immediately complete the tawaf. You can delay it to the next day, for example, for whatever reason, if you want to delay it. In fact, the Sharia says that you must complete Umrah Tamattu and come out of its ihram so that you can enter into the ihram of Hajj Tamattu, so that on the 9th of Zil Hijjah, you can proceed to Arafah for the wajib wuquf for Hajj Tamattu'. I'm skipping the other details because usually we shall not face this problem. Once we arrive at the Masjid al-Haram, mustahab at the gate of the masjid, there's a dua to be recited, inshallah, either through your book or through the escort alim who will be there. They will guide us what to recite. But once we look at the Kaaba, mustahab to make dua, and the dua which is recommended from the Imams alayhimus salam is about the holiness and the sacredness of this house. We remind ourselves of the importance of this house. So when we look at the Kaaba, the first thing is we should ask for forgiveness. Allahumma inni as'aluka fi maqami hadha fi awwali manasiki an taqbala tawbati. Oh Allah, I've come here. I am a privileged guest. You are so great, so forgiving, so merciful, so majestic. And I realize that I'm a sinful person who in my past has been disobedient, and I know I will not get the full benefit and the reward of my presence here in your audience unless I'm forgiven of my past sins. So the first request is not to ask something, I want this in the dunya and I want that in the dunya. No, the first thing is to ask for forgiveness before we enter. And the second thing the hadith teaches us that we should ask for is we should praise Allah. Alhamdulillahi alladhi ballaghani baytahu al-haram. This is a holy, sacred, hallowed, exalted house related and associated to you. Oh Allah, you don't have any physical body, but we have a physical body. In order to enable us to associate physically with you, you have projected something on the earth with your special grace and mercy and generosity and kindness and forgiveness, and you have invited us to come and worship you in Tawheed so that we qualify to deserve to get the reward. Allahumma inni ashhadu anna hadha baytuka al-haram, and then the qualities of the holy house. And the dua teaches us to say that Allahumma inni abduka wal baladu baladuk wal baytu baytuk. Oh Allah, this city is your city, baladul haram. Oh Allah, this house is your house, baytuk al haram. Oh Allah, this servant is your servant. Where else do I go? When I'm in need, when I want my future here to be secured, my future in Akhirah to be secured, where else do I go? Which other master can ensure me the security and the prosperity here and hereafter? And therefore I've come here seeking your special grace and mercy. And I promise you, I will be an obedient servant. I will be fearful of disobeying you. And therefore help me and enable me to always worship you and to seek your special reward. So with this state of mind and with this attitude, now we proceed to the Kaaba so that we can perform the tawaf. There are some important points that you need to be aware. So the Kaaba is almost, but not exactly, a cuboid structure. The important landmarks that you should be aware of is, one is this corner known as the Rukn al-Hajar, where the Hajar al-Aswad is there, which is usually the eastern corner. You'll find the sun rises from somewhere here. And then there is the door, and if you go anti-clockwise, we reach the second corner, which is known as Rukn Iraqi. And so this will be facing the north. And then there is a semicircular wall which is known as Hijr Ismail, and at the end of that is this wall, this corner known as Rukn Shami, which is facing to the west. And then finally you have this final corner known as Rukn Yamani, which is facing to the south towards Yemen. Or incidentally, when we pray Salah from here, Tanzania, we are to the south of Mecca. So when we face towards this corner of the Kaaba in our Salah. Fortunately, there is no major difference between any of the mazhabs of the Muslim faith as far as the essential components of tawaf are concerned. Where do you start? Where do you stop? That is the Hajar al-Aswad. In what direction you should move around the Kaaba, be it clockwise or anti-clockwise. All of us move anti-clockwise. And what is the inner limit of the tawaf? According to the wall, according to the Hijr Ismail. And what is the outer limit? The Maqam Ibrahim. And the number of rounds that has to be done is 7. All of us agree on that. And the fact that continuity has to be maintained between the rounds. You can't do one round and go and eat and sleep and then come back and do the second round, and then the next day the third, and the fourth day the fourth. No. There has to be continuity one after another, known as muwalat, in the same sitting. Unless, of course, there are some problems that do arise, we will discuss that under interruptions. And, oops, sorry. And one important requirement is that the tawaf has to be done under our own control, not that somebody else pushes us and we lose the control. So let me quickly give you the practicalities of the tawaf. The starting point is known as Hajar al-Aswad. In the past, there used to be a marker on the tawaf area, but now because of the congestion, they've removed that marker. Instead, what you'll find is there's a green light on the wall opposite the Hajar al-Aswad. Tawaf must begin at the Hajar. We are supposed to do tawaf according to how the Prophet ﷺ did it. And he started at the Hajar al-Aswad and he finished at the Hajar al-Aswad. So if I can practically demonstrate, let's say, maybe there's no need to bring any table. Let's assume that this is the Hajar al-Aswad. I'm supposed to move in an anti-clockwise direction, not a clockwise direction, meaning that my left part of the body should be facing the Kaaba on all sides. But I should begin at the Hajar al-Aswad. Which part of Hajar al-Aswad? The first part, the middle part, or the last part of Hajar al-Aswad? Doesn't matter, any part of Hajar al-Aswad, but you have to begin at the Hajar and stop at the Hajar. In order to make sure that we start at the Hajar, it is advisable to enter the Tawaf area before the Hajar starts. So there's a huge crowd moving. What you do is you come and join the huge crowd before the Hajar, and then you make your niyyah. I am going to do tawaf of 7 rounds for the Kaaba, around the Kaaba, as part of my Umrah Tamattu', as part of my Hajjatul Islam or Mustahab Hajj or Wajib Hajj of Nazar or no Ihtiyat Hajj, whichever Hajj. And it is also, if you're doing it for somebody else, you must specify that this Hajj is on behalf of somebody else, niyabat. Or no, it's not a wajib niyabat, mustahab niyabat, doesn't matter, mention it. Or no, it's not niyabat, but you want to give the thawab of this to some marhum. Doesn't matter, you're allowed to do all of that. So you mention it, qurbatan ilallah. Obviously, right now as you are planning to go, you already have it at the back of your mind. What are you planning to do? But just like I said at the time of ihram, to speak the niyyah is preferable so that you're conscious and you're aware. So after completion you start having doubts. Did I make the right niyyah or not? So better mentally prepare yourself, join the crowd before the Hajar al-Aswad, make your niyyah that once I reach the Hajar al-Aswad, my round will start. And then you keep on moving in the anti-clockwise direction. And once you finish the one complete round, the round 1 stops here. The direction, as I said, is anti-clockwise. Direction, generally speaking, anybody watching you should be able to say, if somebody is asking, this gentleman or this pilgrim, how are they doing their tawaf? If, let's say, somebody on the first, second, third floor is watching you and observing you, sees that you're moving in the anti-clockwise direction around the Kaaba, that is enough. It's not necessarily required strictly that always at all sides of the Kaaba, your left side should be facing the Kaaba. So you could be walking in such a way, so let's say if this is the wall of the Kaaba, you could be walking in such a way that you turn a little away, a little to the right, or you turn a little to the left towards the Kaaba. That doesn't break your orientation and direction. The only thing which is not allowed in the orientation and direction is if, as the person is doing the tawaf, they give their back to the Kaaba and they walk away from the Kaaba. Or they face the Kaaba and they walk toward the Kaaba. Or no, they go backwards. Or no, literally they turn and the right part of the body now is facing the wall of the Kaaba and they move in the opposite direction. This sector of the tawaf becomes batil. But otherwise, generally speaking, if you're moving in the anti-clockwise direction, you move a little. If I can give an example, you'll find different lanes, so you want to change a lane. So you go a little outer lane. Or no, you want to go into inner lane. No problem. A little turning inside, a little turning outside. doesn't disturb the orientation requirement of the left side of the body facing the Kaaba. Another requirement for the validity of the tawaf is the inner limit. Inner limit meaning, if you observe this lower elevation which is at the bottom of the wall of the Kaaba, if you get a chance to do tawaf near and near the Kaaba till you reach the wall of the Kaaba, if for whatever reason you're pushed and you start walking on that floor elevation of the wall of the Kaaba, then that part of the tawaf becomes batil. Sababu, the tawaf has to be done around the Kaaba, not on the Kaaba. That is already part of the Kaaba sasa. So better be careful about the inner limit for those who get right to the wall. And then the second inner limit that has to be observed is this semicircular wall known as Hijr Ismail. It is said that Ismail alayhi salam himself is buried here, his daughters and some other messengers are also buried here. So out of respect, we are not allowed to do tawaf inside the wall, semicircular wall. We have to do the tawaf outside the semicircular wall. That's the second inner limit you have to be careful about. And then the outer limit. Outer limit is this Maqam Ibrahim, where the print marks of Ibrahim alayhi salam are imprinted. So we should try to make the tawaf between the wall and the Maqam Ibrahim, anywhere in this area which is designated by the white color in this diagram. However, in some circumstances we are allowed to go beyond. I'll explain when. And of course, the requirement that it's 7 rounds and no more. You can't do 7.5 batil. You can't pray 3.5 rak'ah for Maghrib. You can't pray 2.5 for Fajr. No. The moment you finish your salam, you're outside your salah. The moment you reach the Hajar al-Aswad at the end of the 7th round, you make the niyyah, my tawaf is finished. You can continue to walk, but now it's a walk. It's not a tawaf anymore. It's the niyyah which is important. And as I mentioned, continuity between the rounds. There should be no long break or gap. And also the requirement of control, meaning that if, God forbid, during the round, you get bulldozed by a group of people who come and push you. So in the push, they come and surround you, and they are moving in their own direction. They decide to change the direction. So what happens is you're caught in between the crowd, and you want to move, but you can't because the crowd is pulling you and pushing you. So the crowd now, for example, pushes you and you start walking away from the Kaaba. You've given your back to the Kaaba. Or no, the crowd pushes you and you lose control and you start walking towards the Kaaba. The crowd pushes you and, God forbid, you are pushed to go in the wrong direction. That sector of the tawaf becomes batil and you need to compensate for it. How to do so, we'll discuss that. Usually, be careful. The trick is try to identify a place and a space where you are able to perform the tawaf comfortably without getting involved in these big crowds, congesting crowds. This is the green light which is opposite the Hajar al-Aswad. So though there is no floor marking of where the Hajar al-Aswad is, but mentally you have come and joined the tawaf crowd before Hajar al-Aswad, and you make the niyyah, I will start my tawaf when I reach the Hajar al-Aswad. When I look, I can't see where the Hajar al-Aswad is, but when I look opposite, I can see the green light. So my niyyah is, when I reach that point, that's where I'm going to begin my tawaf. That's good enough. So I have already explained the rules about tawaf. Problems that can occur during tawaf, and that is to exit from the tawaf limits. Entry into Kaaba, we haven't had the opportunity, unfortunately. Maqam Ibrahim, are we allowed to do tawaf outside Maqam Ibrahim? It is permissible, yes, according to both Marhumat al-Khoi and Hazrat al-Sistani, but preferably not. Preferable is to do the tawaf inside the Maqam Ibrahim, between the Maqam Ibrahim and the wall of the Kaaba, throughout. So notice that white area that was there in that picture. Try to keep this 26.5 cubits distance from the wall of the Kaaba throughout all the four walls. But, as I said, if for whatever reason the crowd is too big and too congested and too tight and you could lose your control, no need to go inside Maqam Ibrahim. Do it outside Maqam Ibrahim. Yes, the round will become bigger because now you're further away from the Kaaba. But make sure you don't go very far away. Be connected to the crowd outside Maqam Ibrahim. What about touching the wall of the Kaaba? If you get to go near and near till you reach the wall of the Kaaba and you're doing tawaf, you're supposed to do tawaf around the Kaaba, not with the Kaaba. No, ihtiyat mustahab to avoid it, but it is allowed and doesn't break the tawaf. What about you are forced to walk on that elevation at the bottom of the Kaaba known as the Shadarwan? No, that sector becomes batil. You need to repeat that part of the tawaf. What about entering inside the Hijr Ismail? No, not allowed. You have to repeat the whole of the round. You don't only repeat that sector. The whole of the round has to be repeated. What if somebody does it outside the Hijr Ismail but very near the wall and he touches the wall during the round? Again, better to avoid, but doesn't break the round. So what if for whatever reason these essential requirements of the tawaf are disrupted? I could not do the tawaf properly because I was pushed away and I walked away or walked towards the Kaaba or I walked in the wrong direction. Then that sector in which this has occurred, that sector has to be repaired. And the way to do it is retrack your steps and redo that improperly done sector of the tawaf. But obviously with these big crowds you can't walk back. So you'll have to take, obviously you make the niyyah, I'm stopping my tawaf at this point. You try to change your lanes and come out of the crowded area and rejoin so that from the point where your tawaf was disrupted, from that point you restart that round. This is the fatwa of the mujtahids. But let's say retraction is not possible. The crowd is just too big. The amount of time it will take you to come to an area where you can return and rejoin, that amount of time is too big. It's better just to continue with the crowd. So you go all the way around with a dummy niyyah now. This is not a round anymore because your round is broken. So it's a dummy walk, Sasa. You go all the way till you come back to the point which you have mentally marked that this is the point where my tawaf was disrupted and I'm repairing that. And you continue from that point. Most of the mujtahids say that this is how you should repair the damaged part. But Hazrat al-Sistani says no. Your round at any point has been disrupted. That round is batil. Go all the way to Hajar al-Aswad and restart that particular round. So I've given the essentials of how to do the rounds properly. But there are some conditions before the tawaf. Just like salah has tahara as a requirement, so also tawaf has certain preconditions. Number one is tahara from any hadath. Hadath meaning you should not be with hadath asghar, which requires wudu, or hadath akbar, which requires ghusl. And also, you should be clean from any najasa. So the najasa has to be removed from the body before the tawaf and from the ihram dress before the tawaf. And yes, just like salah, it's necessary that the private parts are covered. For women, all those parts of the body which have to be covered by hijab must be covered properly for tawaf to be valid. And for males, circumcision is a requirement. And niyyah of course is important, which I've already explained that I've come here to do tawaf of my umrah, which is tamattu', either for myself or on behalf of my sponsor. Or no, I'm not sponsored, but I want to do it for the thawab for a beneficiary. And whether this hajj is mustahab or wajib or ihtiyat hajj, specify qurbatan ila Allah. In case you are not sure about all these details, of course, you will be given guidelines to remind you how to make the niyyah. But God forbid, for some reason, you lost that paper or you're forgotten. Then the most important thing you should keep in mind is, oh Lord, I've come here to do the tawaf, which is my duty to be done right now towards you. Qurbatan ila Allah. Bas, that's enough. So if you're asked, what are you doing here? Tawaf. Which tawaf? I don't know the names, but there's a tawaf which is required from me to do the first thing when I come to Makkah. I'm doing that tawaf. Doesn't matter. That much is acceptable. Any najasa you must remove. The ghusl and the wudu, very important. So God forbid if a person has anything which blocks the water of wudu from reaching the body, and for some reason the person didn't know that they have to remove that deterrent or blockage, and they did their wudu and they went for tawaf. Now they're being told that no, sorry, your wudu was batil, therefore your tawaf becomes batil. So now what do you do? Tawaf is batil, umrah is batil, and you are claiming you're a hajji. You think you've done everything. No, the rule is strict. Before the end of Zil Hijjah, because of ignorance, they must compensate that tawaf with the proper wudu. Otherwise, pay $1,000. Simple wudu. You make a mistake, $1,000. If out of ignorance the person hasn't done the wudu and the tahara. Qanini, both in Surah Baqarah, when Ibrahim a.s. and Ismail are instructed to construct the Kaaba, and in Surah Hajj, Ibrahim a.s. is mentioned. طَهِّرْ بَيْتِيَ لِلطَّائِفِينَ. Purify this house. This house is a pure place. Impure people are not allowed to come here. Impurity of physical impurity, impurity of having no wudu or ghusl. What if doubts occur in tawaf? We'll discuss that. What if a person has come with tahara, but inside tawaf, his tahara becomes broken. He becomes impure. If it is salah, the moment your wudu is broken, salah is batil, renew your wudu, come back and restart your whole prayer. In the case of tawaf, it's a bit different. And the difference is the half point. The fatwa based on the riwayat of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam is that if your tahara is broken before the half, that's the 4 rounds, half here meaning 4 rounds, then your tawaf is batil. You haven't even reached half and you've broken your wudu. Whole tawaf batil. Come out, do your wudu, and come to repeat the whole of the tawaf all over again. Scenario 2. During the 7 rounds, the wudu was broken after half, after the 4th round. No problem. Mentally mark that point. Come out, perform your wudu, return, and from that point, just 1-2 steps before, make the niyyah. I'm resuming the tawaf from the point where it was broken. After the 4th round, 5th, 6th, part of the 7th round, and you resume and you complete your tawaf. And in the situation where the tawaf is broken because the wudu is broken not after the fourth round, or not before the fourth round, third, second, first, but right in the middle zone between 3.5 rounds and fourth rounds. Or incidentally, you can exactly mark half rounds. Because our Hajar al-Aswad is the beginning. Up till Rukn Iraqi is a quarter round. When you finish Hijr Ismail and reach Rukn Shami, that's half round. When you reach Rukn Yamani, that's 3/4 of a round. And when you return back to Hajar al-Aswad, that's the full round. So you can actually mark 3.5 rounds, 4 rounds. So in case your wudu is broken between 3.5 rounds and the completion of the fourth round, that means between Hijr Shami up to Yamani, or up to just before Hajar Aswad, in that area it is broken in the third round, then the rule is come out, mentally mark that point, come out, renew your wudu, return back to the point where it was broken, complete the remaining rounds, and then repeat the whole of the 7 rounds. What if a person has doubts? Doubts during the tawaf. How many rounds have I done? Doubts after the tawaf. And you can have doubts about your tahara. Am I in the state of tahara or not? There are different rules. I don't want to involve you into the details. The safest rule is make it a point, a habit. This is a new habit you should learn. And that is even here. When you leave home, leave with wudu. So why doubt? Did I do wudu? Yes, it's my habit. I made it a point. I do not leave the building in Makkah or Medina without wudu. So whenever you have a doubt, you say, but no, I've already made my wudu. Ignore the doubt. So develop this habit. That will solve all your problems. If you have not developed the habit, then there are problems. Inshallah, we'll discuss the details later on when we have more time. So niyyah is important as a precondition for tawaf, tahara from hadath and khabath, covering of the wajib parts. So obviously for the males, the private parts have to be covered. The rest of the body doesn't necessarily have to be covered, but definitely is mustahab. So let's say if the chest becomes open during tawaf, no problem. If the ihram goes above the knee, no problem, doesn't matter. But the private parts, you see what is necessary for the gents, that it should be covered at the time of entering into ihram, is that yes, the shoulders should be covered, the chest should be covered, the upper back should be covered, the loincloth should cover from the navel till the knee and beneath that at the miqat. But after that you can remove the shoulder cloth. You can do tawaf without the shoulder cloth, no problem. You're allowed to, in as much as you can pray salah without your shirt. But it's mustahab to cover yourself. So also in tawaf. The basic private parts, once they're covered, the tawaf is valid. But for women, the hijab is wajib. And therefore, just like salah, if the hijab is not properly observed, if the hair is sticking out, that salah becomes a problem. So also, if the hijab is not proper for the women, the tawaf becomes a problem. And God forbid, if it's purposely not observed, the hijab, then the tawaf becomes batil. Hazrat al-Sistani says, no, if a woman's hijab is not proper, and let's say some of the hair is visible, then it is sinful, but it doesn't affect the validity of the tawaf. The tawaf is sahih. You don't need to repeat that. However, the foot has to be covered as part of the hijab, as we mentioned when we were discussing the ihram dress for women. For men, haram to cover the upper part of the foot, except through a slipper. But for women, when they are amongst women or amongst mahram men, no problem, they can keep their feet open. But when they come in front of na-mahram, then part of the hijab means it is wajib to cover the upper part of the feet. So let's say they went for tawaf. Tawaf, you're going to mix with so many men. They are na-mahram men. According to Hazrat al-Sistani, it is sinful to keep the feet open, but it doesn't affect the tawaf. The tawaf is sahih. But it doesn't make sense. Oh Allah, I've come to you as a servant, as a slave. I want to obey you. I want to receive gifts from you. I'm sinful. Give me forgiveness, and then you're sinning again in front of him, near his house. It doesn't make sense to say qurbatan ilallah. I have an older picture. The current picture is that the construction has been completed. So the tawaf, in the past there used to be a problem whereby there were some temporary structures which they had introduced in the tawaf area. Now all of that is removed, so that we shouldn't have a problem. I'm skipping some details because we're running short of time. Interruption in tawaf. One big problem that can occur during tawaf is that maybe mu'alat can be broken, and that is continuity. In the wajib tawaf, let's say for some reason, sometimes you need to break the tawaf because of an emergency. Suddenly you've got a headache, or suddenly you've got a pain somewhere, just can't continue. Sawa, that's a medical emergency, no problem, you can come out. But no, can you break the tawaf for no reason? So the fatwa is, a wajib, mustahab tawaf, no problem. But that is after the umrah. Wajib tawaf, according to Marhumatul Akhui, is haram to break the tawaf for no reason. Hazrat Ayatollah Sistani says, better don't break the tawaf without excuse. Second scenario, I must break the tawaf because an emergency has arisen. Somebody has fallen. I have to go and help. So all the rules of tawaf will not apply now because I must give emergency and necessary attention to somebody else. No, I myself have got a problem. I can't continue. So breaking tawaf for essential tasks, what is the rule for that? No, it's not essential. Got a call during tawaf, you're allowed to carry your phone, but you're not allowed to keep it on your ear. So maybe you put it on the speakerphone mode, you receive a phone call, we are waiting for you, can you hurry up? Oh, I don't know, you're required to come here, they need your help. And you say, well, do you need it urgently, or can you wait for 10-15 minutes till I finish my tawaf? No, we don't need you urgently. So it's not an essential task. Mustahab to go and help somebody else, and you're allowed to break, but not wajib to break. And the fourth scenario, you want to interrupt your tawaf because now it happens to be the time for salah, awwal waqt, or no, for salatul jama'ah, mustahab. So what do you do in these situations? If it is for an emergency, essential task, you want to interrupt your tawaf, no problem. You can stop wherever you are, and the rule of 4 will apply. The rule of 4 says, if you have stopped your wajib tawaf for an emergency task, before 4, tawaf batil, come back and repeat the whole tawaf. If you have stopped your tawaf, wajib tawaf, for an emergency act, allowed. If it's after 4, mentally mark that point, finish your emergency work, come back and complete from whichever point you interrupted your tawaf. Scenario number 3. No, it's not essential. Mustahab to go and help somebody. It's not wajib. They don't need wajib assistance. You are allowed to break your tawaf, no problem. But here, you must check the continuity rule. If your absence is required for just a few minutes and you can come back and resume your tawaf, no problem, your tawaf is valid. But no, for a mustahab act, you want to go out of the tawaf area and the break will be long, 10 minutes or more, then no, your tawaf is broken and you'll have to come back and repeat the tawaf all over again. What about salah? No problem. You're allowed to break your tawaf for the sake of salah. Be it furada, because it's awwal waqt. No, it's going to be Salatul Fajr. They will keep a gap of, let's say, 20 minutes, half an hour. No, but you want to pray furada, awwal waqt. No problem. You're allowed to break your tawaf, even if it is a wajib tawaf. Or no, you're trying to finish, but you can't finish because now Salatul Jama'ah is going to start. No problem. You can break your tawaf. Whether it is before the fourth round or after the fourth round, for the sake of salah, mentally mark whichever point it is. Go and pray your salah, be it furada, be it jama'ah, and then come back and resume from wherever you stopped, before the fourth round or after the fourth round. The same rule applies to mustahab tawaf. Mustahab tawaf, you're allowed to stop anywhere, first round, even first round. When you come back, you don't need to repeat. Just continue from the point where you stopped. Finally, and I stop here. What if a person has doubts in tawaf? How many rounds have I done? 7 is required. More than 7, batil. Less than 7, incomplete. I start having doubts. The problem with doubts is all doubts will make your tawaf batil. So be very careful. It's not like salah where some types of doubts have to be ignored. Some types of doubt have a repair and a compensation. And some types of doubts about the number of rak'ah in salah invalidate the salah. In this case, usually they invalidate the tawaf. Mustahab tawaf is different. Mustahab tawaf, you have a doubt between 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. Count it as the lesser number and continue. Mustahab tawaf is flexible. Wajib tawaf, it is broken. So be careful. What if you start having doubts after the 7 rounds are finished? You have prayed your salah and you're coming out. Oh, did I do 7? My God, could have been 6. Ignore it. You finish your tawaf, you finish your salah. Now you're having doubts after completion. Ignore the doubt. So then the biggest challenge in order to avoid breaking our whole tawaf just because of shak, the biggest challenge is how to avoid the shak. And that's why I said, take your counter with you when you come. If you're a type of person who could face this challenge, then have a counter. Maybe you're wearing a ring, so keep on changing your finger for the ring to count the number of rounds. Or no, have a watch. Average, it takes me 3 minutes per round, 4 minutes per round, 5 minutes per round. So I'm going to estimate, which round is this? I started at this time, so many minutes have passed, so I should be around this round. Or no, nowadays there is a huge clock, the Makkah Tower clock. So you keep on looking at the clock to time yourself, which is the round you have done. Or no, keep a tasbih and mark the number of rounds that you have done. Alternatively, keep a minder with you. So there is a couple who is doing the tawaf, you and your spouse. Or no, some friends are there with you and they are keeping the count and you follow them because you trust them. But keep a good friend and a good spouse. Then you are in bigger problems. Or no, have a spiritual experience. 7 rounds, I will recite 7 surahs. First round, Surah Al-Asr. I'll keep on reciting Surah Al-Asr. Second round, I'll keep on reciting Surah Qul Huwallahu Ahad. Third round, another surah. You can design your own methods for reminding you which round it is. Or no, dua. Make tawassul of one of the imams in first round, another imam second round, another imam third round. Or no, make a zikr. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah first round. Subhanallah, subhanallah second round. Whichever dhikr. Salawat in one of the rounds. Dua, Rabbana atina fid dunya hasana, another round. Depends on how you plan and there are options. I have completed the discussion of tawaf, the basics. If there are any questions or clarifications, please. Yes, please. Yes. That's correct. Between 3.5 and 4. Yes. After 4, the rule is different. Before 3.5, the rule is different. Between 3.5 and 4, the rule is different. That is in a situation you need to restart from Hajar al-Aswad, in a situation where your round is disrupted because you could not observe the essential parts of the round, and that is, let's say, the orientation. So let's say you got pushed and you started walking anti-clockwise, you started walking to the Kaaba or away from the Kaaba. For that, the repair is trying to retrace your steps and redo that sector and continue. You cannot repair because it's too big a crowd. Make a dummy round, cancel that round. Make a dummy round till you come to Hajar al-Aswad and redo that particular round. Wudu repair is different. Disruption of tawaf because of orientation and loss of control is different. Yes. Yes. Shade and umbrella, yes, I suppose during the peak heat times it becomes uncomfortable to do tawaf. Of course, there is more thawab. The more you exert yourself, there is more thawab. But it becomes extremely uncomfortable. You need to exert, and not everybody can tolerate that heat. So for convenience sake, they will have a shade. To take shade, once you are in your destination, no problem, you're allowed to, in the state of ihram. What is not allowed in the state of ihram for gents, ladies no problem, for gents, is when you're traveling and moving from one point to another point. At that time to take shade is not allowed. But once you have reached your destination, no problem. So within Arafah, you're moving from one tent to another. Within Mina, you're moving from the tent to go to Jamara. In Muzdalifah, you're moving around to collect your pebbles. No problem. So let's pray to Allah to get tawfiq that we become qualified to become the special, privileged, honored guests of God who will get His special pardon and forgiveness. And more important than that, we get a spiritual transformation and closeness to God and become better people, inshaAllah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.